Welcome back guys, this is a new What If, and this is what if Naruto was part of a Secret Bloodline Part 1. Chapter 1, Play Theater D, by Myth and Royd. It's been 13 years. 13 years since the dreaded Kyuubi incident that struck the village. The force of nature itself, the colossal nine-tailed fox regarded as a demon, struck a major blow to the village's military might as. They suffered many casualties from it, but none hit them harder than the death of their strongest shinobi and Yondaime Hokage Namikaze Minato. But in its place the village might have gained something or someone far greater. And that something that was far greater, was in the hands of one Shimura Danzo. The old warhawk stood on the opposite side of a glass window looking into an all-white room. In the center of the room there was a pit filled with metal spikes, and dangling above it was a motionless figure completely hidden. In a full-body straight jacket, if not for the strands of golden locks that poked through the head wrappings. Two nondescript root shinobi entered into the white chamber, situating themselves on top of the spikes, fingering their tantos at the ready. Danzo nodded to the loyal shinobi before approaching the mic. "We will be starting test 123 of the container's advancement." The seconds ticked by as if the drones were waiting for something to happen. Seeing that there was no change, they pointed their swords at the dangling individual. They were ordered to kill their target to the best of their ability, so that's the order they would carry out. Both leapt from the spikes they stood upon at a speed only a ninja could have, and held their swords to sever the figure where the midsection would be. They reached the figure almost instantly at that range. The moment their blades were within inches of the individual's body, it was like time slowed down as the figure's eyes snapped open through the bandages. Everything changed from what was expected by most at that moment. There was the sounds of various noises, screams, metal clashing, and finally crunching noise. All the while Danzo watched expressionless, though his eyes started to twitch, flinching when the window suddenly became coated in a spray of red from the bodily fluids of one of the unfortunate soldiers, or maybe even both of them. Another failure. Crash. One of the large metal spikes broke through the window and traveled to embed itself in the wall behind Danzo. One of the large metal spikes broke through the window and traveled to embed itself in the wall behind Danzo. "Danzo Oji-san, that's not very nice. You started another test while I was sleeping." The boy was sitting up on the side of the metal spike with his body still restrained except for his legs. The shocking detail would be those blue eyes of his that had a glow about them that betrayed the boy's innocent demeanor. The other shocking detail would be that not a speck of blood could be seen upon the boy's body, yet inside the room was a massacre that only took less than a minute to be created. "Uzumaki," Danzo uttered unreadably, while his other root agents just stood at attention while a few kept their eye on the boy. Uzumaki Naruto was the boy's name. He was 13 years old and had been working with Danzo since he was 7. The boy should have been a mindless weapon of his, but he was just too willful and unpredictable, along with the fact they had a certain agreement in place. 6 years ago. "Are you here to help me or hurt me like everyone else?" Danzo stood in front of a small boy who was dressed in nothing but rags and was holding a bloodied metal rod of sorts. He was covered in a few cuts and bruises along his arms and cheek, however one would say he came off lucky. There were a few civilians around him and a couple shinobi, and none were still breathing, some not even in one piece anymore. The boy looked tired and looked to have a wild look in his big yet exhausted blue eyes. The boy, despite the situation, gave off so much life that it was both eerie and inspiring. "I mean you no harm, boy. I simply wish to make you strong so that you need not fear what might happen in your lonely nights." The boy twitched and gained a look of hope for long enough for Danzo to catch. Long enough so that he could see it shift into a level of defensiveness as the boy's pupils turned into slits and his hair blew wildly. "I've been on my own long enough and betrayed enough to know when someone wants to use me." The ground under him started to shake and crack as small tremors were sent through them from the one hand he had flat to the ground. Danzo looked unperturbed, despite being slightly unnerved by the boy and his overly aware response in general. "I won't, like, as it is indeed my intention to turn you into a weapon. The old man said that I should forgive everyone even after what they've done to me. Everyone has it out for me, and I feel like it has something to do with this." The boy pulled his shirt up and showed a seal show up on his stomach, though it was fuzzy and flickered in and out like static, oddly enough. Danzo's eyes widened slightly at seeing the boy even away of the seal. The boy grinned widely at seeing the man, surprised. "I'm a kid, but I'm not stupid. You were on the old man's old team, right? You know what this seal is all about, don't you? Is that why you are here? You come at a moment when I'm weak to give me an off? You probably also waited till I should enough promise?" Danzo started to discreetly pump chakra into his other eye in preparation. This boy was too smart for his own good. There was no way he would be able to harmlessly convince the child this time. The boy stood straight and pointed the rod dead at Danzo. "Hold on, you don't have to use any jutsu on me, you haven't even heard my answer yet." Danzo almost visibly stumbled at getting called out. He could sense my use of chakra? If he was more knowledgeable then he might have even been able to figure out that existence of my recently acquired Sharingan. "What is it, boy?" He pouted at Danzo's tone. "My name is Uzumaki Naruto, not Boy Datebayo. I'll become this village's weapon if on the deal that you explain what this thing on my stomach is and that you give me some kind of compensation. Whether it's food or money so I can live better." Danzo thought it over, believing it was simple enough, but frowned. "That's a simple trade-off, but I can just as easily destroy your mind and make you a loyal drone of mine by force." Naruto looked downtrodden, hearing that before his expression showed furious backbone as he looked back up at Danzo and stood strong, sliding into a more offensive posture. "Fine then, just try to control me. I promise it won't be easy for you. I'm all alone so I have nothing left to lose. If I can't even decide my future I might as well die now." He snarled as his fangs sharpened. Danzo couldn't believe his eyes when an almost invisible doom of energy formed around Naruto and the traces of a chain made of chakra started to emerge out of his neck. This boy is like a caged animal, and he can even has the potential of the fabled chains of the Uzumaki apparently? Investing in this boy could definitely be a boon. Fair enough. Naruto blinked as he lost his threatening presence. "Huh? I will give you a safe haven. But I will break you down and gauge your limits and break your body down, and if your mind breaks you will be controlled by me. However, if you make it to graduation age I will allow you to become a shinobi of the leaf. Of course you will continue to attend the academy to keep Sarutobi unaware." Naruto looked at him with his big blue eyes holding traces of hope, suspicion, and loneliness. Someone was willing to work with him. Deal. Of the numerous tests the boy passed all of them one way or another. The boy was a prodigy and even had a semi-passive bloodline that he believed was unique to him alone, along with the Uzumaki chakra chains. A Kekai Jasho of a literally magnitude. The failure was on my part. The graduation exams are in a few days. Be sure that you attend them so that I know at least some of these efforts weren't for naught. Naruto smiled at him happily as he watched him go. He closed his eyes and let out a deep breath before cracking his neck to the side sharply, and through pure power the straitjacket was torn apart as he forced it off him. With his arms and strength. "This will be fun. I can be me now." Chapter 2. Start of a weapon. The day had finally come, as it was that time of year again for the next wave of possible genin hopefuls. The classroom filled with civilian and academy students. It was a time of peace, and so there was no need for any of the students to graduate early that could, so everyone who was in the class pretty much knew each other for at least a couple years, but in most cases much longer than that. However, because of there being no incentive to grow, this both made a clear line in the skill level between the civilian students and the clan students, but it also made the clan students not as strong as they could be because there was hardly any stress or incentive to grow. So everyone's skill progressed pretty much at steady rates that curved off in the end. Though particular students that would not apply to this would possibly be the last Uchiha Sasuke. He was one of the few that pushed himself to be better and so grew faster than the others. However steeper this rate still became a steady one. With his drive so clouded with anger and revenge, along with the fact that he's on his own and can only teach himself so much, his potential was also stagnated. Revenge can be a powerful driving force to make one stronger, but he didn't even know who or where to direct it correctly. The rest of the actual shinobi children, it was harder to gauge their potential for the most part, as they either hadn't shown enough drive or were too socially closed off to measure. Some however were so socially open that it made them an eyesore. I'm sitting next to Sasuke-kun forehead. Ah, the blonde Yamanaka heir. She was a pretty one for sure and had a thing for fashion. However, though she was from a prominent clan and an heir, she couldn't be discerned much from a civilian student outside of her clan techniques. She was just too distractible and had quite the mouth on her. One could only hope that will change. Move it, Ino Pig. Sasuke is much better off being next to me than you. Sakura Haruno, a civilian of unimportance but rendered important because of her loud-ass voice and pink hair. The other students either watched or groaned in annoyance as the two went at it again. The sound of a stack of books hitting the desk echoed through the cloud as Iruka's eyebrow twitched in irritation. "You two be quiet and sit down." They flinched in fear as Iruka's head grew to a comically large size for a second, as if to emphasize his irritation. He looked around to see the classroom die done and nodded with a smile, only to notice another student wasn't present. Has anyone seen Naruto? The door slid open as a figure walked in slowly. "Sorry Iruka-sensei, I was running late, but then I decided to just make a belated entrance like a common cliché in other fanfiction stories." A cliché in what? Wait, Naruto? His eyes widened while most of those in the classroom did the same to varying degrees. They all knew the Naruto who wore the "I'm special" one size too small orange jumpsuit that with a few changes could easily resemble a onesie a baby would wear. The one in front of them was largely different, though still had a certain oddness about him. Personality-wise appeared much more in control of what he was doing and aware. He stood at 5 feet 3 inches, standing just a couple inches taller than Sasuke. His hair now went down to his jawline yet kept its characteristic spikes. Now shading his eyes, wore a high-collar orange jacket with black trim and zippers along the waist and breast. For pants he wore black jogger-type pants that narrowed at his ankles into his black shinobi sandals. Some of the girls blushed, as not only did he look good in his clothes but he actually looked a little older and a lot more attractive in general. "Naruto? Yes, that's me." He closed his eyes and smiled as everyone bombarded him with questions. "Why are you taller?" "I'm just standing straighter." "Why is your face and voice a little more mature now?" "I'm going through puberty." "Since when?" "Last night." "Why is your hair like that?" "I finally washed it." "But it's like several inches longer?" "I know, right?" Naruto obliviously responded in a happy tone, causing several to grow frustrated. Seeing that they wasted enough time, Iruka coughed into his hand. "Alright Naruto, it's great to see you can perform the henge that saves time. Now please go to your seat so we can get through the rest of class." He tilted his head in confusion. "But Iruka-sensei, this isn't a henge." He turned to the sides and a poof of smoke erupted before the old Naruto they were familiar with, who was shorter, was seen. "My old appearance has been a henge for the past 6 months, I guess?" 6 months? They were all shocked and not all of them believed them. Iruka believed him but was dumbfounded as to how he didn't notice. "Since I'm already here, I can do the other jutsu tests as well." Naruto turned back into his current self as smoke dispersed again. He put his hands together in the ram sign and strained a bit as a vein on his temple bulged. Iruka let out a breath, as it looked like even with the changes Naruto's growth as a ninja hadn't really changed. Henge. Iruka was pleasantly surprised when there were 4 puffs of smoke and now there were 5 Narutos standing in front of him. The forms of 4 of them wavered for a second for a reason he wasn't sure, but that quickly vanished and they were from then on indistinguishable. "Great job Naruto. You must have worked hard before you could barely even make one clone, let alone the necessary 2. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and laughed as the clones dispelled, fading out of existence, getting Iruka's attention again. Yeah, this is still pretty hard for me to do because of my chakra after everything I've done." "What about his chakra? Not the amount of it isn't the problem? Is it the demon? Well then the last ninjutsu for the test was the Kawarimi, right?" Iruka nodded and Naruto got a sneaky look in his eyes. He put his hands in his pockets and fell back. When he was at a 45 angle with the ground, there was a pop of smoke and a yelp of surprise before Sasuke appeared in his place, falling to the ground. Everyone's head snapped back to see in Sasuke's seat was Naruto with his feet propped up on the desk. "Chihihi, I figured since the best went first that Sasuke can go now." He was met with glares from a few, primarily Sasuke and Sakura, and looks of astonishment from a number of others. He struggled a bit to prefer the clone technique but still formed more than the necessary amount and was able to perform the other 2 jutsu seamlessly. And if I looked right, then his eyes were also closed when he did the substitution, and he switched with a living body, which is a whole another level of difficulty that many jonin can't even do. In the jutsu category alone, I think even with the one issue it's still worth above a perfect score. After that, the rest of the class proceeded with their own portions of the ninjutsu test, which only served to turn Naruto back into a social pariah, but in a different way. Seeing the believed dead last perform the test so easily urged the rest of the class to one-up him, only for them all to ultimately fail, creating a wave of clout to their pride and self-esteem. Though a few weren't bothered by it. The only one who was able to successfully match Naruto was Sasuke in the clone jutsu, as he was able to create the same amount, though with some slight straining for a different reason. He was able to do the other jutsu flawlessly but not without seals. But Naruto had already expected that. It did catch his eye, however, that the Hyuga heir could do a transformation without seals, and both Shino and Ino along with Sasuke were able to bring the substitution jutsu down to 1 seal. Though with varying degrees of difficulty. He suspected that with Hinata's heritage that she may have been able to do the same if her self-esteem lasted enough to try as she did it before she did the substitution. So really the only objects of potential strength he saw in the class overall were the Uchiha and the Hyuga for the specific category. Naruto held up his headband and let it dangle from his hand as he stared at it curiously, letting catch the light. He passed and was a major upset to the rest of the class. They expected he would boast and brag about it too, but what further confused some of them was the fact that he just looked on in interest, as if it didn't really matter to him either. His grades prior were almost completely trash. In fact, he was actually failing. His performance on the tests today were the complete opposite, however. He had over a perfect score on the ninjutsu portion. He earned an above-perfect score on the physical tests as well and a high grade on the written tests. He also scored perfect on the projectile test even though he somehow accidentally threw some of the kunai were flaws and rough marks throughout all that he did, but the things he succeeded in he far outpaced a majority of the rest of the class to where it didn't even matter. Iruka was congratulating them while also reading off their team names. Naruto leaned back in his chair as he had a feeling where he would be placed based on his scores. He had been failing the class. He only passed because of his performance in the test, so he was still the dead last. Team 7 will consist of Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke, and Uzumaki Naruto. You will be led by Hotake Kakashi. Oh, Kakashi? Old man talked about him a few times. He tied his headband around his neck before leaning back and going to sleep. What can I find to eat? I could get ramen or I could hunt something. Now that I'm a ninja I can do either, and what's best is I have no curfew. Too bad old man Danzo had work to do tonight. Naruto walked through the words and found a small clearing with a stone in the middle of it. Deciding to eat later, he went and sat down on the stone looking up at the night sky. This is the start of when the rest of the world knows who I am. I might not have gotten this far the way that I am if it wasn't for the old man's help. Gigi helped too, but he's always busy with his Hokage duties. Hehehe, I bet everyone was surprised to see how I really am. I can't wait to see their faces when they see what I can really do. He sat up and crossed his legs while holding out his palm to look at. Naruto opened his eyes as a figure jumped out of the trees to land in front of him. From their breathing he could tell they had been traveling a bit. Seeing the white-haired Chunin, Naruto looked on confused as they tried poorly to hide their contempt for him. Mizuki-sensei? Uzumaki-san, what are you doing out here? I always wander the forests here. I feel at home in nature, especially since I never really felt at home anywhere else. Naruto answered with a degree of innocence. The answer filled Mizuki with a sick joy, while deep inside Naruto the fox stirred uncomfortably. So the demon brat really is all alone? As he should be. The perfect scapegoat. Hey Naruto-kun, as congratulations for passing your tests so spectacularly, I am here to award you with this scroll of jutsu. It's filled with the strongest as a present for promising shinobi like you. He gave his best eye smile at Naruto while taking out a large scroll off his back. I already copied parts of the scroll, but I won't be able to get away with it all. Better to cut my losses and dump the blame on the demon. Naruto turned his head to look at the scroll and stared off at it for an awkward amount of time. Mizuki tapped his foot impatiently at the boy's lack of response, though he grit his teeth into a smile. What is it? What's wrong? It was only a matter of time before Anbu caught up and he was exposed. Naruto took a few more seconds longer than answering before his eyes shifted to Mizuki, having a calculating edge to them. Do you think I'm an idiot? Just how exactly did you get your hands on the forbidden scroll? Mizuki flinched at getting called out that fast. What? Ah, I get it. You betrayed the village and stole the scroll. Probably to take it to some other village where you can seek sanctuary. Not a bad plan. After all, you are a pretty worthless shinobi, so no village would ever take you in without some kind of deal. Mizuki's face quickly turned to growl at Naruto for insulting him in such an uninterested manner. So the demon shows his true intelligence. He summoned a giant shuriken and sliced it down on Naruto, who quickly somersaulted out of the way with a grace as he flew through the air and landed on a tree branch with his hands in his pockets. You just called me a demon. I believe that violates Gigi's law. Sorry, but for your piling up list of transgressions I have to kill you now. Ha ha ha, a cocky brat aren't you? You think just because you are a ninja now that you stand a chance? I'm a Chunin, an elite ninja, while you're hardly a genin. He threw the giant shuriken at Naruto only for him to catch it easily through the ring with his foot. Nice throw. Mizuki growled and threw his second shuriken at Naruto in rage. Don't mock me, you demon trash. Naruto snapped his leg down, flinging the shuriken back at the other one as they deflected off each other. Why do you keep calling me demon? I didn't even do anything to you. Don't play dumb. Do you really not know? Mizuki jumped up onto the branch at Naruto with a kunai out. Naruto leaned from side to side, dodging them with a tired level of skill. 14 years ago, the nine-tailed demon fox attacked the village and massacred many, even killing our Hokage. In order to beat the demon, it was sealed into a small child. You are that child. You are the demon reborn. Mizuki grabbed Naruto's head in one hand before thrusting his other hand holding the kunai at his face, trying to catch him while he was surprised. Instead, the kunai was kicked out of his hand sharply by Naruto's foot that shot up in an angle that showed his flexibility. Cool. But then if I'm a demon? He snapped his leg out again, hitting Mizuki's arm and shattering his wrist, causing him to scream out in pain. Naruto's eyes slitted as his hand shot out his pocket and grabbed Mizuki around his neck, choking him. Naruto jumped up in the air before spinning and throwing Mizuki down to hit the ground in a cloud of dust. The man coughed before he vomited blood when Naruto dropped from the air and drove a knee into his ribcage with enough force to break the bones and crack the ground. Beneath him, if I'm a demon, then how could trash like you ever even stand to me, let alone be worth fighting? Gargling in his own blood, Mizuki spat at Naruto. Why, you monster. Naruto's head tilted as his face shadowed, and all that could be seen was two glowing slitted pupils baring down on him. A monster? You might not be far off with that one. Naruto grabbed a hold of Mizuki's shirt and threw him smacking against the base of a tree. He tried to raise his guard, but fear overtook him as he heard a buzzing in his ear. Naruto slid across the ground at him at high speed, instantly on him in that short distance with his arm held out. Come back to life when you're worthy of killing. Naruto's hand zipped at Mizuki, and from a distance there was a small flash and an echo of a booming noise. So this is the Forbidden Scroll? Naruto held it in his hands now and looked it over. A few seconds later he tossed it carelessly behind him. Hey, I don't need it. As if they were waiting right there, the scroll was suddenly caught out of the air as a small squad of Enbu showed up. Naruto turned to them and waved happily. Good, you're here. You guys can take care of this then. Naruto walked past them as they felt the urge to shiver. The battle zone before them resembled the brutal murder of a man by some rampaging beast. The lower half of Mizuki's body was still resting against the tree trunk. The upper half of his body along with the rest of the tree was blown clean away to scatter the grounds behind it. Naruto-kun, you were this strong? Sarutobi's eyes were widened in shock as he stared at Naruto through the viewing orb. Oh, believe me when I say, Hiruzen, that the boy is a near invaluable asset. Sarutobi wheeled in his seat at Danzo's arrival as he glared at his old rival. Danzo, are you responsible for this? I knew I would regret not shutting down your operations. I swear if you have harmed the boy that I assure you that I have done nothing to the boy other than give him occasional protection and a place to grow, which is more than what you gave him. A confident weapon is way more useful than an unhealthy, socially broken one. Danzo snorted and Hiruzen actually flinched in guilt. Naruto-kun may not be broken, but he didn't seem all that sound mentally either. He decided not to ask Danzo about that for now. I will let this slide only because this benefited Naruto-kun, but don't think I won't be keeping an eye on you so that you don't brainwash the young boy. It is not as if I have not already tried, but the boy seems immune to such things. Danzo nodded his head with an unreadable expression. Of course. The boy after all is this village's future, and nothing is more important than securing this village's future, which brings me on to another matter we must discuss. Where were we? Oh right. We were talking about. Naruto appeared back in his mindscape after he entered his apartment. His words fell short as he now saw Kyuubi in her Yukai form, having added a few years to it to where she now looked 16 and was now the definition of alluring, with a healthy female body with supple breasts, a full yet tight ass, and longer hair. Her lips were also flusher with a dark lining to her upper lip, reminding him of the mouth of her fox form. She also had small whisker marks upon her cheeks. She blushed a little and couldn't make eye contact while Naruto's mouth watered before he caught himself quickly and grinned. Are you trying to bribe me into because I have to? Say you're a natural. Naruto gave her a thumbs up while she growled at him, trying to pull her shirt down, which was now too small and so hugged her chest and had trouble covering her delicates. No, I'm just adjusting. And I rarely have a need for clothes, so I'm not used to making them. Ah, okay. Naruto nodded as he looked around at the now dry dungeon that she was in. As if responding to some silent command, the scene quickly changed to that of a forest, filled with lush vegetation and gentle sunlight. Though she was still in her cage. Alright, I believe I asked you if you would like to get out of here? She glared at him in suspicion but nodded. Well then, how would you like to help me out a bit? In exchange I could, let's say, extend the range of your leash? Why would I help you out? I could just let you die. Even work against you at a critical moment. Sure, it would affect me too, but I'd probably respawn eventually. She smirked at the idea. She wasn't sure if she really would survive his death, nor was she actually too happy about the idea of him dying, but she would exact some control from this deal where she could. I suppose you are right. But let's say you do decided to hinder me? Naruto's eyes shadowed, and with a silent step he entered the cage, which made the fox girl stumble back at how boldly he threw caution to the wind. I too can make this very difficult for you. His hair started to flare out wildly and her hair bristled in the sense of danger as she heard a buzzing in her ears. She growled and quickly grew to her giant fox form. Her real one, which was more red than orange with darkened paws. Do you dare threaten me, mortal child? Suddenly a chain shot out the ground around her neck, tightly choking her and pulling her down to the ground with a crash. She yelped in surprise and saw Naruto standing right in front of her snout. I'm not just threatening, I'm giving you a promise. Naruto's eyes slitted and bore down on her dangerously as an ethereal metal chain formed around his own neck, and He grinned wildly. The chain on her own neck glowed brightly before her Biju form was shattered and she was instantly brought back down to a teenage girl. Before she could regain her bearings, she cried out when Naruto roughly pulled on the chain that now acted as a leash on her by her neck and held her up to eye level. With the look in his eyes, and with how fast the situation was switched on her, she actually felt a certain amount of fear. I'm smart enough to know that I can't take you on in a straight fight, but in here I don't have to. As long as you are my tenant, I can suppress you and drag you through the mud. And tan your lovely hide with these same chains. He held out his other hand in a clawing motion and it started to vibrate and glow white before he held it over his own stomach. As the seal appeared and the area around them started to tremble and fall apart, and she twitched as she felt like she was being electrocuted. After a few seconds, Naruto removed his hand. I think it's clear I have other ways of making things worse for you here as well. So tell me now, will we be able to get along? She squirmed a little and shivered from his tone in her ears. It was sadistic and she could feel him grinning. She nodded her head submissively, looking down. Good, now what is your name? Kei Kuromi. Dark beauty? Cute name. Akami seems like it would make more sense though, but I like it anyway. He let go of Kuromi, who now stood a little shakily fingering the chain collar and looking nervous. He smiled brightly, dismissing the previous tension. Now then, I ask one more time, would you like to get out of here? She bowed slightly and was a lot more agreeable this time. Why yes. What would you ask of me? She felt disgusted with herself for her weakness, but at the same time she somehow for some reason enjoyed how her container actually had the balls to manhandle her like that. All I ask is that you be someone I can talk to. Her eyes widened and she looked up at him to see if he was joking. He gave her an eye smile as he rubbed the back of his head. I don't really have friends and you are the closest person to me, and you probably know quite a bit about me already. I don't care if you dislike me as long as you don't act against me. I'd like to at least be friends, but if you don't want to, then that's fine as long as I can still talk to you. He genuinely just wanted to interact with her. She would get a degree of freedom, and the only catch was to help him and be his friend, which she supposed might benefit her too. Seeing her think it over while she subconsciously rubbed her neck made him drop the chain and look apologetic. Anyo, sorry. I went a little overboard there. She looked at him oddly for a moment before she started to laugh softly into her hand. Alright, then I'll be your partner, Naruto-kun. Naruto calmed down and gave a soft smile that radiated with hers. She had a blush on her face, though it was hard to tell in her small fox body. Remember, Kuromi-chan, if I die while your mind is outside my body, the backlash could destroy your consciousness. She was blushing because Naruto was topless, stretching in the mirror. He was quite toned, and while not built up since he was still growing, he was still quite lean and defined. All in all, a perfect specimen of health. I already told you I won't kill you. I'm just giving you a warning in general. I am a shinobi now after all, and though I don't plan on ever dying, there are dangers everywhere. She sat on his bed and turned into her yukai form while wearing a sleeveless black top that hugged her chest and had a zipper going up the middle and white shorts. The chain was thick and held around her neck, now as a semi-permanent accessory to complete her look. She felt the black made her eyes and fur stand out more. She crossed her long legs, which Naruto stared at in the mirror for a second before putting his shirt and jacket on. A moment later, his own chain appeared around his neck, though his hung looser. Well, let's get going, shall we? Hatake though is notorious for being late, but I don't want to be late just in case he shows up on time. She nodded and jumped at him, and in a swirl of energy landed on his shoulder as a fox kit. His eye twitched as he glanced at her. Why did you do it like that? Because it's fun. Now I hope you put on a good show for your queen. Yes, my queen. He mocked her, but the tone he put into it was still enough to make her blush. Having a friend for once might have its benefits. Chapter 3, Bell Test. 867, 868, 869. Sakura was watching Naruto perform continuous push-ups in odd fascination while Sasuke just leaned against a tree and ignored them. It had been almost 3 hours since the time they were supposed to meet in the morning. Naruto knew Kakashi was notorious for being late, so he wasn't really all that bothered like his two teammates were. He decided to take a nap or light resting while he went into his mindscape to spend time with Kuromi. Mostly it entailed him making his mind more comfortable for her. After a good bit of work and just enjoying her company, Naruto left his mind while keeping up a mental link and went into doing push-ups. 900. Phew. He then moved himself into a handstand and balanced on one arm just to show off a little. Hatake, are you gonna just keep waiting in the tree, or did you think I started these exercises just because? This alerted Sasuke and Sakura as they heard a rustling in a tree ahead of them before Kakashi dropped out. You're late. Naruto winced as he lost his balance and fell on his side, groaning. Too loud. Judging from memory, she is a very vocal human. Why don't you just rip out her tongue? Because I have self-control? He could hear Kuromi snorting in his head, not believing that at all. Kakashi walked up to them, though he was surprised that the assumed dead last was able to detect him. Sorry, I wanted to show up earlier, but I got lost on the path of life. Ah, that makes sense. I've lost my way on that path a number of times. Naruto said it in a ponderous way, but still had enough implied meaning to make both Kakashi and Kuromi flinch. Well, since you all are here, let's get started. Naruto walked towards a stump and placed down a clock and then took out a pair of bells. Alright, you all should find this one. Simple. All you guys need to do is get a hold of these bells. If you get a bell, you pass. But sensei, there are 3 of us and only 2 bells? Sakura asked the obvious question, which really should not have been asked. Well, that just means whoever cannot work to get the bells fails and gets sent back to the academy. So obviously the test is to get us to work together. The one that doesn't participate in helping get the bell together gets sent back, but then there would just be the 2 of us. There are no permanent 2-man squads in the Leaf Village, which means the test is likely a ruse to see how compatible we are. Naruto grinned mentally while Kuromi looked at him in their mindscape. Wow, you're kind of smart. Kakashi put the bells back on his waist. Alright, then you are free to use whatever means you have available to get the bells from me. You have 1 hour. Begin. They scattered from the clearing while Kakashi stood there without reacting as he had his nose in his book. After a few seconds, he blinked to see Naruto standing in front of him. In the same way, reading a book. You aren't taking this too seriously, are you? I could say the same to you. Kakashi nodded at the retort. Touché. Naruto looked up finally and pocketed his book. So you like reading porn in public? I prefer reading The Art of War. I don't read too often though. Naruto stood with his hands in his pockets and smiled. Well, I already figured out the point of this exercise, so it really doesn't matter what I do. Kakashi's eyes widened upon hearing that. Already? This kid is supposed to be the dead last of the academy, isn't he? But that won't stop me from fighting you. Naruto took out a kunai before charging at Kakashi. Set to impale his chest, Naruto's eyes widened when Kakashi suddenly vanished. The next moment his arm was held behind back with his own kunai pointed at his skull. It's not very wise to charge head-on at a shinobi like that who far exceeds your own skill level. Kakashi droned out in boredom. Naruto's shocked expression became a grin and Kakashi's eyes widened slightly when his hand started to shake as Naruto's arm flexed and started to push back against Kakashi's hold. Maybe the worst place to be is close to me? Naruto clamped his teeth and his body bristled as he released a small shockwave that broke Kakashi's restraining hold and pushed him back a meter. What? Naruto's shadow was on him quickly and did a diagonal slash with his kunai, which Kakashi diverted away from him with his own kunai, but still felt the force of the strike. Naruto spun on the balls of his feet and did a swift roundhouse kick to Kakashi's midsection that barely missed him. Naruto followed up with another one and another one, as each kick only missed him by a small margin as he continued to step back. Kakashi's hand shot forward and grabbed Naruto's foot before yanking him and slamming him back into the ground. Naruto's hands shot out as he caught himself into a handstand. Kakashi stabbed straight down at Naruto with a kunai in hand. A moment later, everyone's eyes widened in shock as Kakashi's body started to fall back when the same kunai was now seen embedded in his forehead through his headband. From up in the trees, Sakura and Sasuke's eyes were wide as it went like a blur to them. What? I didn't even see him move. The Kakashi poofed to show a stabbed log instead. Naruto stood up on his feet with his face shadowed, and they noted the air about him seemed different, as if the zone around him was filled with danger. Naruto's head turned discreetly as he searched for Kakashi. Left, right, behind, above. Where are you? A pair of hands shot out of the ground to grab his ankles, only for Naruto to stomp down the moment the ground broke. He grinned as the ground under him was crushed as light flashed through the ground for a second. Bass. A grin spread on his shadowed face as the hands under him went limp and blood sprayed from the ground. Of course you're down below. A second later, the same. Kakashi disappeared in a poof of smoke. A kunai suddenly was pressed against Naruto's neck as Kakashi stood behind him watching him intently now. Well, you have my attention now, and apparently the ground is off limits when facing you, huh? What was that trick you used anyway? The air around Naruto suddenly lightened instantly as he gave a more light-mooded grin. Actually, being near me in general is off limits apparently. Kakashi flinched at that as he felt there was another meaning in those choice of words. He stumbled again when Naruto leaned to the side and stabbed himself on the kunai. He vanished in a puff of smoke that had the feel of a firecracker with its low pop as a jolt of vibrations went through the kunai and up his arm, forcing him to drop it on reflex as he held his hand from the tickling of his nerves. He can use shadow clones? What kind of shadow clone was that even? Sasuke had tried his own hand against Kakashi. He had been able to surprise him momentarily a few times, but ultimately he just knew Kakashi didn't take him as seriously as Naruto, even though he fought him a little longer. He felt a blaze of fury well up inside him at that. How dare the dead last show him up? He's just a clanless orphan of a loser. He should be better than that outcast. He continued to brood as he watched the clearing where Kakashi was from the bushes. He heard an ear-bleeding feminine scream, but he ignored it. Sup? Sasuke tumbled away from the voice before rolling onto his feet with a kunai in hand. He saw Naruto crouching across from him waving. Hey Sasuke, wanna team up? Sasuke stood up and scowled at him. Why would I team up with you, Dobi? I'm an Uchiha. I am all the help I need. Oh, you need help, alright. Naruto's face went from cheery to tired as he sighed and stood dusting himself off. Look Sasuke. Hokage Kakashi is a Junin, an elite one at that who achieved said rank by the time he was the age we are now, whereas we are newly minted genin. With his superior speed and strength and you not able to use the Sharingan, there is no way you will be able to win alone. The mentioning of the Sharingan seemed to trigger Sasuke as he became fragrant. Oh, and you think you can do better? Know your place. Even without my Sharingan you are hardly even worthy enough to gaze upon my feet. I am an Uchiha and you are some worthless commoner. Oh, I can do better, alright. I'm bored of this already. Naruto simply walked towards Sasuke, confusing him. Sasuke was about to speak out only for the back of a hand to crack upon the side of his jaw as Naruto bitch slapped him hard, making him knock up against the tree right behind him. Back in the clearing, Kakashi's eyes widened comically from his book as he was somewhat aware of what they were doing because of his sense. What the hell? Sasuke held his face in pain as he groaned out loud. Look at me. Sasuke, without thinking, did so only to receive a first to the other side of his face as Naruto punched him hard to the ground. Naruto then kicked him up in the stomach as he coughed up saliva before he grabbed hold of his shirt and held him up to the tree with one hand. Listen here, princess, I grew up on the streets. Don't think I'll let you run your mouth like that again when I try to be reasonable with you. Else I'll make you cry. Got it, duckass? Sasuke glared out of one eye at him in defiance. Naruto blinked at him bored before suddenly cocking his fist back, causing Sasuke to flinch. Naruto snorted as a smirk found its way on his face and he dropped Sasuke to the ground. That's what I thought. Several minutes passed before Kakashi saw any more action. Without warning, Naruto jumped out of the trees at him with an axe kick. The kid is back for another round? Kakashi pocketed his book and held his arms up to block. When the leg made contact he gasped when the force of it made his legs shake as the ground under him cracked. Kakashi grabbed hold of the leg and threw him away. Suddenly a barrage of shuriken went through Naruto as he blew up in smoke and went straight for Kakashi. With hardened reflexes, Kakashi whipped out a kunai and deflected them all in rapid succession. He flinched a bit as upon making contact with each weapon a tremor from some kind of charge was sent up his arm. What kind of chakra is this? He turned around again to block Naruto, who had a kunai in his hand. Naruto pressed forward before Kakashi pushed him back and they started to parry each other's kunai in rapid succession, causing sparks to fly. Naruto had a wild grin on his face as he grew progressively faster. Kakashi started to sweat lightly as he held Naruto off. This speed, if it keeps up, I'm going to need my Sharingan soon. Naruto suddenly leapt up with a downward slash, causing Kakashi to block upwards. Kakashi was startled when he saw Sasuke kicking the spot where Naruto had just been with a sweeping kick. The Junin quickly stepped back while throwing Sasuke away and jumping to launch a kick right at the side of Naruto's face hard, all in a fraction of a second's time. Sasuke rolled onto his feet while Naruto was sailing through the air away. Naruto twisted mid-air and touched the ground with his hands, performing a series of back handsprings. Naruto's fingers dug into the ground, leaving claw marks as he skidded back before dashing full speed at Kakashi, blurring enough to surprise him again. Naruto somersaulted forward with a double stomp at Kakashi's arms as he guarded, causing him to skid back a meter. You are very light and quick on your feet for a genin. Naruto's canines gleamed as he grinned widely as a trail of blood dripped from the corner of his mouth, showing that Kakashi's kick did in fact connect. Thanks. Been a while since someone scored a solid hit on me like that. Naruto pushed off and a building of chakra could be felt along with the sound of hand seals. Kakashi was able to look behind Naruto to see Sasuke going through hand signs he was familiar with. Fire jutsu? A fresh genin should not have enough chakra enough for that. Kakashi then saw Sasuke's line of sight and saw it was on Naruto. Is he trying to kill him? I thought. His positioning earlier was just a coincidence. His peripheral vision detected movement as his eyes shifted back to Naruto, only to be surprised once again upon seeing him mimicking Sasuke's hand seals a split second after. Is he copying Sasuke's jutsu? But that's a Sharingan ability. He looked into Naruto's eyes, which gleamed with mischievous, and while his pupils were a bit narrowed, his Eyes were otherwise unchanged. No, it's not the Sharingan, nor is he even facing Sasuke. Is he using the same seals simply by chance? Fire style. Fireball jutsu. A giant ball of fire spewed from Sasuke's mouth towards them, head straight for Naruto's back. Right when it was about to hit Naruto, he jumped over Kakashi in a flip as he finished his hand signs. Kakashi ducked under the fireball as it went up ahead behind him where Naruto. Right when it was a meter from Naruto, his cheeks bulged before he let loose an instant shockwave from his mouth. Defying logic. The size of it was equal to the size of Sasuke's fireball, and the pressurized ball of vibrations had the effect of being augmented by Sasuke's fireball as it shot straight through it, turning Ito a bright ball of heated sonic force. Because of how close Kakashi was with him, only being a few meters away from Naruto and his attack being much faster than Sasuke's anyway, he was hit full force with it near instantly. The ground where Kakashi was exploded in a small crater as his position went up in smoke. Naruto landed on his feet and put his hands in his pockets. Be crushed at the speed of sound. You two are starting to become a handful. A kunai was suddenly up against Naruto's neck as he felt a wave of deja vu. Kakashi wasn't taking this lightly anymore as he had a serious narrowing in his eyes. Naruto let out a breath to the sky, not acting threatened at all. Where are your bells, sensei? Kakashi's eyes widened as he had actually forgotten about them momentarily, cursing himself for getting distracted. He looked down at his waist to see them gone. Hearing the jingle of said bells, Kakashi looked back at Naruto to see him glancing back at him with a grin and the pair of bells in hand. Hee. The hour was now up and the entirety of Team 7 now stood in front of wooden posts. Sasuke was scowling a bit with a few scuffs and bruises on his face, and Naruto was rocking on his feet, seemingly oblivious. Kakashi also received a few scraps and had to discard his flak jacket after Naruto's last attack had made it unbearably hot and shattered. Sakura looked depressed as she hadn't done a very good job at all. Naruto, on the other hand, looked like nothing was wrong in the world. Kakashi, after a few more moments, spoke up. Well, I'm impressed. Sasuke, your skills are already high genin level at least, and Naruto, your skills far exceed what was recorded in the academy up until that last even got the bells. So what are you going to do with them now? Naruto shrugged and tossed a bell to both Sasuke and Sakura, surprising her. Well, Sasuke was great when it came to listening to my plan. And what was your plan? To kill me? Kakashi almost lost his footing upon hearing that. What? Naruto held out his hands and gained a dark and crazed look on his face. I knew that the chances of Sasuke willingly fighting with me from the start was very low, so I gave him some incentive. I knew that he would have little issue with trying to harm me, so I used that to my benefit. If Sasuke kept aiming for me or aiming for you through me, you would be concerned with what our goals were and grow distracted. I have a sensor type ability where I can feel the disturbances in air and sound around me, so I can feel Sasuke's movements even without being able to see him, which makes it easy to avoid and also lets me know what hand signs he is using. Their eyes widened at that, as that was an incredible defensive sensory ability to have. Kakashi wondered where such an ability came from. If the boy used it right, it could serve as a counter to Byakugan and Sharingan users potentially. He was concerned with how willing Sasuke went with such a plan though. But then why, when you used the same hand seals, did you use a different jutsu? Naruto chuckled and scratched his head at the question. That actually is just my version of it. See, I have a problem with my chakra in that I have trouble separating it into different basic natures, but at the same time my chakra passively isn't normal. It's basically like disturbed chakra, as it's audible and shakes a lot. Hard to control and hard to grab hold of to separate. Kakashi was surprised, as that likely meant the boy had a bloodline, though the control issues could be a problem. Well then, I'll note that for later. Why did you give a bell to Sakura though? Surely she didn't help out in your little plan at all? Sakura flinched and looked down at her feet. Naruto simply tilted his head and blinked confused. What are you talking about? Of course she helped. She was able to distract you long enough to where I could form my plan with Sasuke without you being aware of half of it. If she never fell prey to your genjutsu, that wouldn't have happened. Sakura's eyes widened, as did Kakashi's, though for a different reason, as he felt his blood chill a bit. He knew Naruto was lying, but it was also saving face for his teammates. It was likely he just manipulated the situation so that Sakura could benefit as well without her knowing, but that wasn't what bothered him. What put him on edge was the fact that Naruto somehow was aware of the jutsu he used on Sakura even though he was nowhere around at the time. It raised the question as to whether Naruto had some kind of stealth talent he didn't know about and was able to stalk him without him knowing, or that his apparently sensory abilities range extended far further than he had assumed. Yep, so anyway, Sakura helps, so she gets a bell. Kakashi just decided to chuckle, waving off the information for later. Well then, so those two pass, but now you fail and have to go back to the academy. PSSH, you and I both know I'm not going back. You told us those who got the bells would pass. Well, I already got the bell, so I gave it to them so they could pass. Besides, the bells weren't the main objective anyway. You wanted to see if we could work as a team. I'd say my decision at least shows there is hope. His two teammates looked confused, whereas Kakashi beamed happily. That's right, the goal of this exercise was teamwork. Thereafter are number 2 or 3 man official cells in Konoha, so if one of you failed, you likely all would have been sent back. I'm under the firm belief that those who abandon the mission are trash, but those who abandon their friends are worse than trash, so if you can't even work with your teammates, then I have no problems with failing you all. You guys didn't do great altogether, but you did do good enough for me to pass you. He glanced specifically at Naruto when he said that. Woo! Naruto pumped his fist to the air. That last word bothered Kurenai. Then there is the Uchiha, Sasuke. Gave you a challenge, huh, Hatake? A no-named Junin shouted out, which led to some laughter of agreement. Kakashi ignored them and continued with his report. Sasuke has possibly both a superiority and inferiority complex. He is skilled, possibly high genin level already, if not low chunin, but he's no Itachi. His potential is there, but the level he's at with such a disposition shows how much he has been coddled. He seems to be skilled in fire jutsu already though. When I fought with him, he was also able to touch the bells on his own because of his talent in taijutsu. This caused murmurs along with comments of, well, that's to be expected, as praise towards the Uchiha throughout the room. And then there is Naruto. Scowls showed up on the faces of many in the room, which the 3 Junin along with Sarutobi and Danzo took note of. The few in the room who did not react negatively who stood out were Mitarashi Anko, Yugo the Anbu captain who was only there to be briefed, Genma, Ibisu, and a few others. If the clan heads were present, they probably would stand out as well. Naruto is definitely not what I expected, though he may still be an adept troublemaker. He's hard to read as the way he speaks goes from being lighthearted and oblivious to serious and malicious. That unpredictability I wouldn't say is a bad thing though, as he still seems to be level-headed regardless. But I'm not sure how well he gets along with his teammates. He will back them up, I feel though. They all looked at him intently for a few moments. But when nothing happened and instead he took out his porn novel and started reading, a tick mark appeared on Kurenai's head as she shouted. Well, are you going to tell us what happened to your vest? Kakashi looked up as if he had forgotten where he was, to which Sarutobi and Asuma chuckled. Oh right, how could I forget? Well, Naruto destroyed it. In terms of raw combat ability, I would say Naruto is both more skilled and stronger physically than Sasuke, maybe even faster, but definitely more agile. He was able to hit me with a booby-trapped shadow clone of some sort, which he apparently can also pull off easily, and could exchange in a kunai duel with me at high speed to the point I almost need to use my Sharingan. The boy also has some sort of sixth sense. When I tried to get him from underground, he simply stomped and the ground under him impacted and cratered. It was a good thing I used a shadow clone for that. Everyone's eyes widened hearing that. The dead last was actually skilled? He was even able to get Sasuke to work with him to help get the bells from me. Though how he did it was basically physically beating Sasuke into submission via repeated punches to the body and face, I believe. People didn't know how to react to that as that was just so unexpected. Anko and Asuma however just started laughing to themselves. Well, he and Sasuke fought me. Naruto showed a recklessness for his own life as he basically told Sasuke to do what he could against me, even if that meant going through him. But that might not have been a terrible plan as it distracted me for his safety, and Naruto apparently has a talent as a sensory nin. He apparently has an ability to feel all the vibrations and movement in air around him to avoid danger. Also, the boy may have a special ability or maybe even a bloodline, because with the uniqueness of his jutsu along with the sensory ability I mentioned, it all seems to be related to sound, possibly more. What happened to my vest was basically the result of Naruto expelling a shockwave from his mouth at almost point-blank range that was enhanced by a fireball jutsu. Its speed was very fast and destroyed my vest and could have injured me a great deal. Its range probably isn't great, and it appears to have some defensive applications, because earlier in the fight when I tried to land a kunai on him, he somehow instantly reflected it back at me with an almost imperceptible but instinctive pulse that sent the kunai back at my skull. Once again, it was a good thing that I could substitute on reflex. Sarutobi resisted the urge to look back at Danzo as he could feel a wave of indifferent smugness on his back. So Danzo was right about Naruto-kun being more than he appeared. I have to make sure he didn't sink his claws in him though. Well, that was pretty easy. Naruto laid on his bed as he played with ninja wire between his fingers. Kuromi was sitting at his desk in front of a mirror in the room combing her hair. I guess you performed well. Compared to the other 2 children, you definitely seem to stand apart from him. He held the wires loose in one hand and ran his hand over them with his other hand, and through some unseen force they began to grow erect and rigid like needles. Yeah, well, Sasuke was thought to be the best in the class and they all thought I was the worst. Even if I might not be stronger than Kakashi when he uses his Sharingan, I still did good enough. But all I need is an opponent to get too close to me and I might be able to win one way or another regardless how strong they are, except maybe Hokages and elites. Well, not much of the test really mattered to me. I liked when you beat up the Uchiha though. He could feel her grinning as her tail wagged behind her. Yeah, I bet you did. He threw the wires in his hand straight up to watch them embed themselves in the ceiling before going lax a few seconds later. He turned his side to look over at Kuromi and blinked. What are you doing? Her fur bristled before she looked back at him in frustration with several combs and stuck in her hair. I'm trying. Do you want some help? Quote. She didn't verbally answer, but her silence was enough for him. He had her sit at the foot of the bed as he held a comb in one hand and ran his fingers through her hair with the other. There was a large amount of static and his hand vibrated lightly as it went through her hair with a dull hum. Your hair really is beautiful and glossy. She blushed at the praise but just pointed her nose up and huffed. Well, would you expect anything less from the queen of the Biju? Hard to believe that despite its appearance it's so matted. Like the only thing you've ever used to comb it was your tongue. That sent her crashing down as her ears drooped. And she glared at him with teary eyes and a blush from embarrassment. I don't think those are things you should say to a woman. I've always been in my Biju form, so I don't have much experience grooming myself in this form, okay? She stopped yelling when Naruto smiled while putting a hand on her head and started stroking her. There, it's okay. Her tail wagged from the feeling as she tried to keep her glare as her body felt weak. Saint, stop it. Let me spoil you at least this much. She sighed in defeat, as it wasn't that she didn't like it. It was more an issue of pride than anything. If no one could see them though, she supposed she would allow it. She would ask him later how he was detangling her fur and hair so easily though. Even a master must groom his pets. That earned him a slap, though he had been expecting it. The goddess before him that was the strongest Biju would only take so many blows to her pride after all. Chapter 4. Into Wave, Hehehe. Naruto chuckled lightly to himself as they stood in the office of the Hokage. His chuckling earned him glares from Sasuke and Sakura pointed at his back. Sasuke was covered in scratches and Sakura in dirty as they tried to catch the wicked cat Tora. Naruto didn't have a mark on him. All he had to do was reach out and grab, and the cat didn't even hiss at him. Naruto did feel a tinge of regret at getting the cat, though, as it now was being squeezed to death by its owner. Ah, Tora-chan. Mommy's here, it's okay now, I'll never let you out of my sight again. You said that last time. Was the deadpan thought of those in the room. The Daiwaimo's wife was one who should not be entrusted with any animal, but it wasn't like it was Naruto's problem. Kakashi of course didn't help in the task of catching the cat since it was a D-rank mission. After the fat woman left, the others let out a sigh of relief, as did Iruka, who was standing to the side of the Hokage to greet the genin who finished their missions. Sarutobi gave a grandfatherly smile at the group as he congratulated them. Well, good job once again everyone on completing another D-rank mission. Gigi, I think it's time we got a C-ranked mission. Iruka yelled at Naruto for that. Naruto. He is our Hokage, show him some respect. Naruto just dug in his ear and acted like Iruka wasn't even there, which caused a vein to pop on his forehead. The old Hokage chuckled and waved it off. It is perfectly alright. Well, Kakashi-kun, what do you think? Are your genin ready for a C-rank mission? Kakashi looked over at his students to get a read off of them. Sasuke perked up ever so slightly, showing he was eager for the prospect of finally having a real mission. Sakura looked unsure of herself as she stood silently. He knew that if Sasuke went, then she would fall in as well. Fangirl mentality after all. Hopefully a real mission might make her take things a little more seriously. A sweat drop grew on his head as he chose not to look at Naruto, as he could feel a gaze from Naruto that, while probably appearing innocent, was filled with discreet killing intent that only he could feel. Like if he refused a higher ranked mission, that Naruto might hurt him. He had no major reason to not take a high mission with his team anyway. I think my little genin are more than ready for a C rank. Hey, well, if Naruto-kun thinks he can handle a C rank, then let's get him one. Bring in our guest. The Hokage directed his gaze to an Anbu by the door, who nodded his head. The door opened and in walked an old man. Not as old as the Hokage though. Probably in his 50s. He was chugging a bottle as he walked up to them. A tremor went through Naruto before he covered his nose. Ah, the smell. Is that normal for ninjan, or does that simply happen with age? Neither, he's a drunk who needs a bath. The man belched before finally addressing the group. So I got a bunch of kids? One looks useless, the other pigeon-toed with a duck ass for hair. I'd say the blonde looks alright, but he looks like he's about to keel over. Sakura's confidence was hurt while Sasuke subconsciously touched the back of his head. Naruto just stood straight and ignored the smell via not breathing. Kakashi's eyes smiled and waved him off. I assure you we are more than capable to protect you. The man looked unconvinced but shrugged. Well, you better be since I'm playing you. My name is Tazuna. I am building a bridge for my country that is of high importance and expect you to get me back home safely. They left not long after that, and in a few hours they covered a decent amount of ground. They had to go slower than normally, however, since Tazuna was an old civilian. Naruto was walking with a small fox in his arms as he stroked her back. Sasuke and Sakura looked at him in confusion while Kakashi actually was slightly on edge. Naruto supposed that was to be expected when you see the boy who is connected to a giant demon fox appearing to be close to a small fox of the same shade. Kuromi was enjoying the spoiling, as Naruto would call it, as she peeked an eye open to look at the others while Naruto continued obliviously. Are you sure it's okay for me to be out like this? Naruto held a small smile to himself at her unsure question. Never thought the great Biju Queen, who has hardly had fresh air in decades, would feel awkward from just a few gazes. She huffed at him. It's not that. Won't my being out here cause you trouble? Don't worry about it, Kuromi-chan. You just enjoy my soothing caresses. HMPH, you should feel honored just to touch my coat, mortal. Don't get too cocky. Naruto chuckled at her prideful act. Kakashi watched them and was able to tell they were having some kind of interaction. Naruto, what is that fox? She's my partner and closest one to me. Think of her as similar to a Ninken but much better. Kakashi felt like Naruto wasn't lying but at the same time was hinting something. He didn't see an immediate problem though, so he wouldn't interfere. I think you are saying too much. She buried her head in the crook of Naruto's arm, suddenly feeling bashful. He could have teased her but he let it go for now. They had been traveling for a few days now and had just entered into wave territory. Their path for the most part was clear, which was good since they were walking. However, because they were forced to walk, that could possibly make them more prone to traps. His eyes caught a puddle that was in the middle of the path. It was odd how it was so perfectly placed in the middle, yet given how frequented this path was, it would be odd for it to be located as such. His eyes narrowed as he spoke softly to Kuromi. Can you hear that, Kuromi-chan? The sound of bodies breathing in the water, echoing in a way that shows it's not real water. Yeah, I can sense them. I also feel their dark intent. What do you want to do? Naruto thought for a moment before shrugging and relaxing his eyes. Well, nothing right now, I guess. Who knows, they might be friendly. Kuromi's small fox head looked up to deadpan at him. Do you not know what dark intent is? Naruto ignored her and she sighed before running up him and going on top of his head as he put his hands in his pockets. Kakashi might have heard them, but he kept reading his book all the while walking forward. After they passed by the puddle, two figures appeared out of it wearing face masks and metal gauntlets. Get him. They made a dash straight for Kakashi and in seconds already had him tied up by a bladed chain. Kakashi's eyes widened in surprise at being captured. The rest barely had time to look back before the two ninja pulled on the chain and tore Kakashi's body to shreds. Tazuna gasped while Sakura screamed in horror. One down. Get the rest and then the bridge builder. Sakura backed in front of Tazuna with a kunai in guard while Sasuke jumped back to gain some distance. They blurred out of sight with the chain in the air. The next moment they appeared behind Naruto, wrapping the chain around him, now causing a widening of his own eyes. That died down a split second later as Naruto looked back at them and smiled. Wow, you guys are almost as fast as Sasuke. Not bad. They glared at him before pulling on the chain only to see it not tear Naruto apart. What? They grunted as a charge went up the chain, numbing the arms of theirs that held it. Naruto spoke out, annoyed, into the air. Sasuke, how long are you going to wait after they have attacked me? Sasuke somersaulted through the air over Naruto before using his momentum to drive a stomping heel into both of their faces. Gah! They fell back and disconnected their chains. Annoying brat. They ran at him with both their claws pointed at him. A figure blurred by and both nin had their windpipes running into Kakashi's arms before going limp. Sakura brightened up when she saw their sensei. Kakashi-sensei, you're alive. Sasuke scoffed at their teacher's dramatic return while Naruto just smiled to himself and sent a vibration through the chain, causing it to fall down to the ground around him. Harmlessly. Kakashi looked at the two and sighed. I still don't get why you two are so content with a fighting strategy that puts one of yours life in repeated danger. Naruto put his hands behind his head and walked towards them. Hey, it works, doesn't it? He walked to the side of Sasuke and his fingers cracked automatically as he looked at him with a slight edge to his eyes. Though it would be great if the Uchiha was a little more preemptive. Sasuke sucked his teeth and looked away with a scowl. I had to read the situation first. You shouldn't have gotten caught so easily if they were slower than me. Naruto's eyes bore into the back of Sasuke's skull for a second before he relaxed and let out a breath of resignation. I guess you have a point there. Kakashi shook his head before addressing all of them. Well, anyway, good job everyone. Sakura, despite your fear, knew to guard our guest. Sasuke and Naruto, regardless of how you did it, still were able to handle 2 Chunin level nin. Naruto, how did you stop the chain from injuring you anyway? Well, it's kind of instinctive half the time, but in the face of incoming attacks my chakra pressurizes the air around the general area I'm going to be struck and then charged. Vibrations are bounced through that compacted atmosphere, both stopping and repelling. It's very conductive, which means if I increase the charge it can be used offensively. It works way easier on metal weapons rather than other physical attacks though. Kakashi nodded his head at the information. That would explain a few things he's done. Sakura was surprised while Sasuke balled his fists. Not only is he a censor, but he has such a defense too? Just hurry up and get your Sharingan, that'll make things fun. Naruto smiled, catching Sasuke's thoughts, which widened when Sasuke kept ignoring him. Kuromi finally moved off his head to bite his ear, causing him to yelp. Kuromi, what's wrong? That was boring and I hate Uchiha, so that was your punishment for encouraging him. But he's my teammate? And? Kakashi was just confused as he watched them, as he only understood what Naruto was saying and not the fox. He turned towards Tazuna, who looked nervous and spoke in a serious tone. Tazuna, those two were Chunin from the Mist Village, the Demon Brothers. Kuromi scoffed at such a name, causing Naruto to snicker at her. They knew you were the bridge builder and aimed to target you. We believed that this was a simple escort mission and maybe we would have to protect you from a few bandits. The fact that there are actual ninja after you could potentially elevate the rank of this mission and put my team at risk. Tazuna sweated at being caught before just coming out and telling them the problem. He told them about Gato and his town and how resources were scarce and those that they had were being drained. Well, this is definitely a B-rank mission now at least. Kakashi stroked his chin, thinking about what the course of action should be. I say we keep going. This is my first mission outside of the mission. I won't be too happy to have it go on record that my first real mission ended in retreat. Naruto shrugged. Well, that's how you feel, but what about the others? Kakashi looked at his other 2 genin to see their responses. Sasuke nodded as well in agreement. As much as I hate to admit it, I agree with the Dobi. I as an Uchiha can't afford to have such a mark on my record either, so I say let's continue. Sakura was the only one who looked unsure of herself but agreed because everyone, mainly Sasuke, did. Kakashi clapped his hands. Well, I guess today is your lucky day, Tazuna. They had gotten much further into Wave after riding a boat to where the landscape had gradually changed. Now the air was more humid and a thin mist started to build. Naruto started to become slightly jittery, which made Kuromi look at him in concern and gained Kakashi's attention. Naruto, what's wrong? Just not used to this. His eyes darted around as the mist slowly thickened. I've gotten used to my 6th sense and the environment I use it in. You know how I sense? Through air and vibrations? Well, sound is basically vibrations moving through the air to be perceived by the ear. Sound moves 4 to 6 times fast through liquid. The air here is a much higher water content than back in the land of fire. My sense expands out similar to a sphere from my body. It's still going out normally, but where it hits the moisture in those areas my sense speeds up and expands. It causes it to fizzle about like static and is kind of dizzying. And what makes it worse is the mist is getting thicker, which will make it harder to wait. This mist feels thicker than normal water particles. This is someone's chakra. Kakashi's eyes widened near the end of that, and as Naruto finished a whirling noise came at them. Everyone get down. They all dove down with Kakashi tackling Tazuna. Naruto ducked down in a crouch as a giant sword flew across above him where his head had been. It went on to embed itself in a tree in front of them as a tall man appeared standing on its hilt. Kakashi stood up, as did the others, as he locked eyes with the shinobi. So now we have to deal with Rogue Mist Nin Momoichi Zabuza. Naruto stood up with his arms drooping as he sweated lightly with a grin on his face. So he's a rogue nin, huh? That means if he's killed by us there will be minimal to no political fallout with the village he is native to. Well, yes, but ho ho ho. So even the great copycat Kakashi knows of me. That kid of yours has some spunk, I give him that, but he looks like he's about to pass out. Kakashi glanced back at Naruto to see him sweating with a slight quiver. Shit, what's going on? Everyone just stay back and protect the bridge builder. I'll handle this, but I'll have to use my Sharingan. He lifted up his headband showing the red eye. Sakura's eyes widened in surprise while Sasuke was shocked. Why does he have that eye? Oh, I get the Sharingan right off the back? I guess this means you won't just give up the bridge builder and be done with it? Sorry, but no can do. Kakashi took out a kunai and tightened it in his grip. Though his lower face was covered in bandages, they could feel Zabuza smirk. Well, looks like I can get some more enjoyment out of this then before I kill you all. Zabuza pulled the sword out of the tree before vanishing from sight. Hidden mist jutsu. As the voice intoned, the mist around them thickened rapidly until they had near zero visibility. Pretty soon the mist made it so they couldn't even see Kakashi, who was a few meters in front of them. Tazuna was fearing for his life as the genin guarded him. Sasuke's eyes darted around trying to spot any danger. Sakura had worry present in her voice. Upon feeling the unease, "Who is this guy? There are 8 points." A chill went down their spine upon hearing Zabuza's voice. Naruto shook slightly as a cold sweat covered him. He's an A-rank jonin. Larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, subclavian artery, kidneys, heart. All ways to kill you. He specializes in both assassination and the execution of multiple targets and is a master of the silent killing technique. Shit, the thickening mist is oversensitizing my sensory abilities. It's ruining my nerves. Not bad the kid knows his stuff. But how far will that get him? Kuromi leaned over from on top of his head and looked him dead in the eye angry. Naruto-kun, don't you dare embarrass me here. You are my container, prove that my interest is well placed and don't cower. Naruto heard what she said and was about to say something when a wave of intense killing intent washed over them. Naruto's body went rigid as the other 2 genin paled. The lack of sound made it worse when Zabuza suddenly appeared in the middle of them and all they heard was his voice. Getting distracted in the middle of a battle will cost you your life. Moving automatically, Naruto pushed Tazuna back and kicked Sakura and Sasuke away. A split second later, Zabuza's giant blade tore through his midsection and bisected him. No! Kakashi cried out, not getting there fast enough, not having anticipated Naruto moving like that. Before the body could fall, it destabilized and in a burst let loose a pulse of vibrations and an electric charge that hit Zabuza's blade and went up through his arm. What? Zabuza's arms were stunned to the muscle as his blade shook in his hands with the sword out mid-swing. Before Kuromi in her small fox form could fall to the ground, a hand reached out and grabbed her around the scruff of her neck before she was pulled back and turned face to face with Naruto again. A Naruto who was now equating on top of Zabuza's sword. His eyes were half-lidded and slitted as he smirked. Ah, that's better. I've had my life be put at risk most of my life. No way killing intent like yours could get to me like that. Compared to the bloodlust of an actual demon, you're just a frail imitation. Everyone was not expecting Naruto to avoid death in such a cool way like that. It was simple but worked. The mist had disoriented Naruto's area sensory ability. Having relied on it for years, having it altered was uncomfortable. However, he adapted fast and the blast of killing intent let his body recognize the danger he was in and jump-started Naruto's instincts. Instincts that Danzo helped hone. They looked closely and could see sparks starting to fly up in the air around Naruto. Kakashi and Zabuza traded blows as they dueled. That kid of yours is actually kind of impressive, Kakashi. Yeah, he may be reckless, but I suppose if he is tasked with protecting the team in my stead, then I don't need to worry. We'll see about that. Zabuza suddenly let go of the sword and kicked Kakashi, sending him a good distance into the air and to the lake next to them. Kakashi glared as he pulled himself out of the water. Damn it, he surprised me. Why is this water so dense? Because it's a trap, dumbass. He gasped when Zabuza was already standing on the water behind him. Suiro no Jutsu, water prison technique. Kakashi was submerged in a sphere of water and was quickly rendered of the ability to move. Shit, I got sloppy. You aren't getting out of this one, Kakashi. Now for the kiddies. He made hand seals with one hand and formed 2 water clones. Guys, don't worry about me. The water clones can only go so far from their caster. Take Tazuna and run. No can do, sensei. Naruto walked up to the 2 Zabuzas with his hands in his pockets. This can't be that hard. Play. The secret ingredient called victory. It started to shake and glow before it destabilized. For a split second it took on the outline that was reminiscent of Naruto before it expanded in an electromagnetic bursted. *VSSH. Gah! Zabuza's body seized up as it stunned him and he let go of the water prison. Losing his balance, he fell down into the water. Kakashi gasped as he was now free of the prison and was crouched on top of the water. The others let out a sigh of relief while Sasuke smirked. Naruto put his hands behind his head and relaxed as he walked to step in the edge of the lake. Well, that was fun. Not that hard though, clearly Rouge Nin just aren't ready for me yet. The water erupted in front of Naruto, destroying the calm and alerting the others again as Zabuza had his sword held high with murder in his eye. He cleaved down to split Naruto in half. It's the braggarts that die early. *SSHH. Zabuza's eyes dilated as his blade was blocked by 2 palms holding it at the sides. The ground cracked under Naruto from the force of the swing. He looked up dead at Zabuza, blasting his own killing intent with finely slitted pupils. Sound travels 4 times faster in water. Zabuza pushed down harder as Naruto's arms shook and he grinned excitedly. A second later Zabuza's eyes bulged as he gasped when something thick and metal hit him. Sideways in the midsection and he was knocked away. He skid back on the water holding his stomach. When he looked back at Naruto he felt a chill to see a thick metal chain of chakra coming out of Naruto's backside and waving about. That chain. That's impossible. Boy, what is your name? Naruto thumbed his chest and relaxed again. His headband gleamed on his forehead. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Konoha's ultimate weapon. And Uzumaki? There are still young ones around? Zabuza didn't have time to think about it much before Kakashi spoke up standing in the water behind him. How pathetic to have a fresh genin outwit the great demon of the mist. Zabuza remembered he was there and scowled at him. Kakashi glanced over at Naruto hiding his amazement. He is full of surprises. He formed a plan with Sasuke, quickly giving him the demon wind shuriken and threw it at Zabuza. By doing so it diverted attention from him so that Zabuza was less likely to sense the chakra being used right away. Along with that he made it seem like he gave Sasuke an actual shuriken when it was actually one of those disrupting shadow clones shaped into one. Then displayed how connected he was to his own chakra to be able to change the course of the projectile in mid-air whether it was a clone or not. He has a careless personality, but that may also be part of a facade, as he purposefully stepped in the water to sense where Zabuza was at a higher rate before he attacked. But on top of that he has those chains that I've only heard of. If they are what I think they are, then they have nothing to do with the fox, and I'll need to ask the Hokage some questions when we return. Zabuza started forming hand signs and grew uneasy when Kakashi imitated him simultaneously. Sweeten. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Both shinobi summoned giant water dragons from the lake to do battle against each other, only for it to end in a stalemate. Zabuza narrowed his eyes through the spray of water. Let's see how he handles this then. He started forming more hand seals for another jutsu, only to freeze up when he noticed Kakashi doing the exact same again. Damn you. Stop. Copying you? Sorry, but I already know this jutsu. Kakashi finished the seals while Zabuza was distracted, all the while Naruto watched their every movement with rapt attention. Sweeten. Daibakufu no Jutsu. Zabuza didn't have time to get away before a giant blast of water formed in front of Kakashi and shot straight at Zabuza, plunging him through the lack and almost drowning him as he was through against a tree. After the water receded back to the lake, Kakashi held out a kunai ready to end this. Naruto's hair bristled as he felt something in his head. Snapped to look to the side. Moment later 2 senbon needles shot out the trees to hit Zabuza in his neck as he slumped over painless. The others went on guard again as a lone hunter nin showed up. He held his hand up as feeling the unease. I mean you all no harm. Sorry to intrude, but I have been on Zabuza's trail. I suppose if that's the case, then since you killed him you have the bounty rights. Kakashi signed as he pocketed his kunai. The hunter thanked him, but their words fell short. When Naruto walked up, his hands were still in his pockets and his posture relaxed, but the threat in his aura that he gave off caused the hunter to respond the same as tension built between them. Even if you were on his trail, this wasn't your battle. To interrupt only at the end like that and steal a man's prey, well, that can be seen as flat-out disrespectful. Naruto looked at him critically as the hunter looked at him the same. Kakashi looked between the two curiously. He's the same age as Naruto, yet he's an elite assassin. Yet even though Naruto is outranked, they give of the same threat levels. Who is this kid? Even Kakashi wasn't sure which kid he was referring to at that moment. Naruto, stand down, it's fine. Naruto obeyed and lost his edge instantly as he turned on his heel and walked back to the others. The hunter nin nodded his head. Thank you, and once again I apologize for my rudeness. With that they shunshined away with Zabuza's body. Tazuna finally let out a breath now that the threat had passed. He had to admit those kids were definitely skilled, especially the blonde. Well, let's keep going. They continued walking and Naruto walked very close to him, causing him to raise an eyebrow. What are you? His legs gave out as he felt weak. Shit, I used too much chakra. Naruto held out his arm and was there to catch him on his shoulder easily. I could feel your weakened chakra levels. I was wondering when you would fall over. You really need to work on your stamina. Kakashi glared lightly at Naruto for the berating, but was too weak to say anything about it. Naruto swung him around like limp luggage as he turned to Tazuna. Hey bridge builder, how much further is your place? I'm gonna need to drop Kakashi-sensei down somewhere so he can rest. You all are welcome to stay at my home. We have enough space and it shouldn't be much more than half an hour away from here. As they walked, Naruto heard the syrupy voice of his hot Biju queen in his head. You did good, container. Naruto mentally snorted as he felt the need to tease her. Don't you mean, my container? Don't get ahead of yourself. You may be giving me a certain amount of freedom, but I can still make this a challenge for you. Her voice hardened as she gave off a sense of authority. The moment she said that, while he was walking with Kakashi, he suddenly showed up in his landscape in front of her, causing her to back up a step in surprise. He grinned with his canines as he leaned in and fingered the chain collar around her neck. "Well, I do love a challenge." She blushed bother from the near contact and strong presence he gave off at that moment. "You are my closest friend, so I'll address you closely, Kuromi-chan tilde." He let go of her and turned around to stop messing with her. "But if you don't want to do the same, I guess that's fine." She let out a breath as she let the blush fade from her face and pushed back what was just said for later. They stood there in silence as Naruto focused on his surroundings on the outside. "Naruto. His mental self looked back at her. "That hunter person. They were lying, you know." "Yeah, I know." If she was surprised by that, she didn't show it. "Well then, what are you going to do about it?" "Well, if they mean to go against me, then that probably means I'll run into Zabuza again. So I'm going to work on my chakra control so I can be more than ready next time." "Your container has to prove to the world he's strong, right?" He smirked, to which Kuromi matched. "Yes, you do." And this is the end, part 1 of What If Naruto Was Part of a Secret Bloodline. I hope you all enjoyed this part, and please like, share and subscribe with notifications on for future what ifs.